Hey team, how are you? And it's a beautiful day here in paradise, and I've got Antony Trucks on the live today. So I'm asking him to join on, and we'll see what we can do in terms of having a great conversation. Hope you're well, Antony. Let's get him on board and see what he's up to today.
Good morning, man. How are you doing?
Hey, brother, what's going on?
Nothing much. I'm just getting my day going, man. I'm sitting with my calendar and booking things and scheduling lots of fun stuff, and then, just living my life, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. I'm absolutely good. I'm doing the opposite. I'm just relaxing, enjoying my life.
What time is it where you're at?
So I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. So
you're 3 hours ahead. You're relaxing at 12:30?
Yeah. Look, even when you're busy, you can relax. It's an attitude, right?
It's true, but at 12 o'clock, I don't know what that's like personally. I usually run hard from about, 7 o'clock until like 3 or 4, and then I chill out. But my morning's been chill, but yeah, I don't know the 12:30 not do anything feeling. That's interesting.
Well, no, I didn't say not doing anything. I said I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
My mental wave pattern is relaxed, irrespective of what I'm doing.
All right.
So that's how I see the world.
I like it. Hey, so you gotta be relaxed. I'm not relaxed. I like my work is relaxing when I'm creating. Today's what, Tuesday, so it's a work day, we'll call it. But it's good, man. Glad you're relaxed.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me. So, there's a lot of information about you. So we've only got 30 minutes. I want to get right into it.
All right.
So we don't need to go into the whole life story bit. I'm just going to tackle you with some questions and see where we go from there. So,
pepper me, man. Pepper me.
Let me ask you, first thing, you have a particular philosophy in terms of raising your kids. You want to be a present father.
Oh, very much so.
Right. So that was something that affected you, perhaps, with being in foster care and all that kind of stuff. Would you say that was correct?
Oh, 100%. I mean, a lot of the way that I parent now is based on what I wish would have been done with me.
Right. So my thinking with that is sometimes what we wish for our kids because we didn't have may not be necessarily what our kids need. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's possible. I think it depends. I mean, obviously it depends on the kid, but I think if you try to wish on them like very, structured regimen that, for example, is not going to hold in today's world, then I mean, so for example, if I'm like, hey, I didn't watch, video games, so you don't watch video games, or you watch video games.
So
I didn't
I'm saying
it's
the opposite. What if your kid actually needs structure and you're doing the opposite?
I think that's what I'm saying. The kids are all different. And I think the thing is you can't parent your kid to have a world that, for a world that you grew up in. But I mean, it may be vastly different. But for me, the way that I look at the things that I didn't have, that I want them to have, it's like presence and caring and conversation and self-respect. Not that I didn't have any of it, but it wasn't something that was, I know, a forefront for my parents. My parents were young. My dad's only 12 years older than me. Like, I was adopted, right? So my dad's young.
Got that
it's
from
a
your
different world.
Parents, though, right? I mean, you've turned out well. You've turned out well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very much. I mean, but at the same time, it's also structure. So football was a big piece of it. The home life, I grew up really poor in an all-white family. So we had a lot of weird dysfunction, we'll call it. So a lot of the things that I experienced weren't what my kids experience. So like, for example, I tell my kids, I'm really close to my kids, but I'm incredibly distant from their emotional experience of childhood. So it's like, I grasp there are some things that probably, because I didn't have them, I shouldn't force them on them. But a lot of the opposition to me is like, it's all good for them. Like, my childhood wasn't a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So in terms of your childhood not being beautiful, irrespective of that, there were some beautiful things in it. So, for example, your attitude, your mindset, do you believe that was something that was presented to you even before you were born? Or is that something you created?
No, it's something you create. It's if you look at the environments a lot of people are raised in, I mean, there's a reason why kids who grow up in impoverished countries have these charismatic skills to, be able to get money and beg and do certain things that another kid from across the world who doesn't have that environment never learns that skill of communication or charisma. So it's heavily something I think you develop throughout your lifetime. And I think you're always given situations to develop it. Some people, they do it well, they lean into it. Some people fall completely short because it's too difficult to overcome. But I am a big proponent of nurture as opposed to nature in that respect.
But it happened the other way around though, because you didn't get the nurture.
No, that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, for me, there's different levels of how we develop, right? So if you look at Eric Erickson's work in identity, we developed in multiple stages of just progression. There's a lot of ways to look at psychosocial thoughts and theories. But the truth of it is, like, I believe a lot of us are given situations that to us are relatively hard, right? So something that's hard to you might be easy to me, and what's easy to me could be hard for you, right? And the thing is, when we're met with our relative difficulty, it's like, how do we respond? And that's what allows us to program what we call our mindset, or show up in certain ways or not show up in certain ways. And so I think that at the end of the day, it's like there's got to be a situation that gives you a moment in time to have to be able to show up differently. And then how do you show up? And that's what crafts your mindset. So it's a nurture thing, but nurture isn't always positive nurture. You know, nurture is kind of what takes place.
What would you say is your core strength?
My core strength?
Yeah.
That's a great question. My core strength, I think, is adaptability.
Yeah. And
I'm good at adapting.
And I'm arguing maybe that resilience or that adaptability was something that was given to you by nature, as opposed to something that you necessarily got through your environment. I
disagree. I don't think nature gave. I mean, naturally, as humans, we're you know, we have the instinct, like animalistic instinct, to adapt in sense, or to you know, honestly, to survive. We'll call it survive. But I think the way that I operate in our society, that's a you know, a social, thought-provoked society. I mean, I don't think that I would even have you know, lasted in different times. I mean, if it was, you know, 400 years ago, I may not be the person I am. You know, so I don't believe that we were born as who we are. We just kind of grew up and like nothing, you know, mattered, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong and twist people's minds up at young ages. There's a reason why statistically foster kids, like 75% of the prison population, have spent time in foster care. And so the way I look at it is like, there's a lot that affects us. And I don't believe we're all have a predisposition to be, you know, this or that. I heavily believe you have the control to be able to adjust what your identity is. Now, I believe, like, religiously also, in a sense, like, we're given a certain religion, but we're also given free will. So I don't believe I was born this way, man.
Okay.
And think about it too. I think it'd be sad. Like, if I accept that theory, that means that the theory must also hold true that some people were born without it and can never get it. And I definitely don't think that's true.
Well, I'm making the assumption everybody has different journeys, that adaptability and resilience may not be necessarily the core competency that they needed for their life journey. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. So I agree, because the situation's different.
Yeah. So talk to me about adaptability. What's been your maneuvering? How have you adapted yourself? How have you come through the process of adapting yourself? What's the mechanism?
I think it leads with perspective to begin with. And perspective is essentially, how do you see something, right? So if I see something as dire and it's never going to be possible to fix it, then I'm already met with this emotion of why even try? And so I think my adaptability, the biggest thing is perspective on, all right, this does suck, but it doesn't have to suck forever. And there's something I can do to progress out of this place. So I think adapting is first having a different perspective on a situation. Like, I may have to adapt in very troublesome situations in life, or my business, or my marriage, right? But in the same capacity, I may have to adapt, you know, basically in a sense of, I got to adapt to, today my wife wants to go and visit her friends, and I don't like these friends, but I'm going to go. I'm going to have a good time, right? And all it is, I try to actually, in the moment, consciously take myself away from the emotion of, I don't like this, and to my brain on and say, where can I find the joy? So the first part for me for adapting is like, let me see a different perspective, because if I can see a different perspective, I can see a different hope, which will allow me to adjust the way that I act in the time that I'm in to get that destination. So I think adaptability for me, like, the biggest thing I have is perspective, even in situations that suck.
So let's talk about perspective in two different angles.
Yeah.
First of all, when you talk about perspective, you are talking about detaching, becoming unemotional to the situation, being rational.
Not at all. No, not at all. I think when I say perspective, it's choosing the emotional attachment, not to be unattached. If anything, it's a detachment emotion that's not going to fuel a positive moment for the next future. But by no means will I detach, because that would be like just distant, and it wouldn't be in the emotion of the moment. And I don't think we can emotionally unattach. So I attach, but I'm choosing where I attach.
Okay. I think we might be saying the same thing, brother.
It's possible.
Yeah. So So would you describe yourself as emotional or rational?
Very emotional, but I have control of my emotions because we're all emotional. Nobody's devoid of emotion, man. Like I feel things, but I don't act out of the emotions all the time. I think first before I actually do things. It's a hard thing. It's like that breath they say when somebody says something, you got to breathe like for 5 or 6 count, and then you start doing something, right? That 5 or 6 count is to take you down from the emotional action, because when our emotions high, our logic and intelligence is low. That's why we say things when we're angry, or we buy things that we don't need when we're happy. So I'm emotional because we all are, but I don't operate in the emotional space as often as most people may.
Okay. Some would argue that the emotional space at its highest level is the most rational, that it's operating at basic instinct, that you're doing, you're basically surviving at that stage and you're running at this subconscious level. Why would you disagree with that?
Well, if you think about Freud's theory of, and I'm not like a psychologist like he is, but Freud's theory of the ego is based on id and superego. So conceptually, it's like your baseline id, which is your desires, the bottom level. This is my desire. If I operate off of desire, like that's where some people's values and principles can differ, which is like I may value life right now, but then if something goes wrong, I may not value life. Hurricane happens, the world changes, right? I will go to my id and say, I'm doing whatever I got to do to survive. Basal instinct, I'm running. So I'll kill that person to get whatever it is. Zombie apocalypse, right? So I think that there is the baseline there, but I don't think in that space I'm logical because animals operate from here. Yeah. And animals aren't thinking. They just said, I'm hungry, I'm eating this thing, I'm biting this thing. Then you have a topic like humans, we have what's called the superego, which is the structured, regimented, like this is dialed in, like OCD is up here. And the in-betweens are ego. One, the superego battles the id and says, no, this is what's right.
So you're talking about perspective. Do you think Freud is always right? Do you think his theory is right?
I don't think it's always right, but I don't think that me personally, whenever I get to my id, I'm in the best thoughts or the best. Because if I think about id, maybe it's like I haven't had sex for a year and I'm married and my relationship's on the rocks and like this attractive woman comes along and like my id would say, ooh, you want to go ahead and sleep with her because she's ready. And like that's the id. But superego would say, no, you'll ruin your marriage. If I throw that out and just operate in the emotion of it, I'm going to possibly ruin my life. So it's like there's areas where I don't believe when we're in those crazy emotional baseline desire moments.
If you've not had sex for a year, there may be a reason for it.
Oh, exactly. And I got to think about it.
And so your reaction to the situation might be a rational response to the bigger picture.
To the stimuli. Yeah, but I don't think that's a rational thought. I mean, just because I haven't had sex in a year doesn't mean I'm rational. It means that I'm horny, and horny is an emotion.
Well, it could be, or it could be that your marriage isn't in a good place where you shouldn't be in that marriage, and you're just accepting that situation.
I think, that's a different tangent from the conversation we're having, I think. But yeah, if I'm hitting that place, I've had sex for a year.
I've got to tackle you on it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree. But if I'm in a space where the marriage is messed up and I haven't, there's probably a reason. 100% is a reason I haven't had sex in a year if I haven't, right? There's a reason.
Right.
But I'm talking about this moment of emotion and whether I'm in a rational, logical space of thought or not, and if I take the action and have an affair, right? Most people who have affairs, like my wife had an affair, it's not this conscious logic. It's more of like, I need this thing and it's gonna feel good and I'm just gonna do it and I'm just gonna do it. And there's not this logic, because logic, if it stepped in, would be like, ooh, yeah, no, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and then you weigh it. But you don't do that. You just go like, I want to feel this way. I'm going to go do this. And it can be the same in like business decisions. It can be the same in, how you parent your kids. If they piss you off, it's like, all right, you yell at them and you spank them, you do crazy. But logic would have said, okay, why did they act out? Why were they doing this? And that thinks the argument you're asking is like, when we're in the space of decision, if it's logic driven, are we the most logic in emotion? And I don't think anybody is the most logical in emotion. That's why people do things they wish they could take back. They have laws. The heat of the moment, passion. Like there's passion, if you want to call it like what is it? I want to say like manslaughter 4 or something, or 3 or 4 is essentially a crime of passion. I come home, I see my wife with somebody, I shoot and kill that guy. You can argue that it was a crime of passion. I was not in the emotional space to make a logical decision. If there's a law around that, that would say that psychology shows that to be a truth.
Okay. So you went back with your wife, and you had this vision of you guys sitting on, on a deck, on rocking chairs, right? Yeah. So do you think that was an emotional decision you made to try and rationalize, or do you think it was a rational decision you made to emotionalize?
I think it was a logical decision I made to handle emotional moments. Because
because you had this vision, you have this picture.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
what you wanted.
Yeah,
That was
and the
your
thing
ideal.
is, it was my ideal, but I created that emotional thought in, we'll call it that thought in a calm emotional state. So I wasn't like thinking, I want to be here, right? It was more of like, that would feel good to be 75 years old on a rocking chair, sitting next to my wife. That would feel good. It was a logical thought of what I wanted. Now, the reason I set that end result is because there are going to be a lot of emotional moments I run into, conversations with friends, conversations with her, arguments we'll have. And I need to be able to have that logical thought in the background that I can attach an anchor to come back to in emotionally, risen moments. So I don't get to the point of like, okay, I'm mad and I'm angry. I throw this out because I'm not thinking about the rocking chair moment. So it's kind of like my North Star. And we all have the North Stars we're going towards for different things in life. And for me with the relationship, it was about to be a hard journey to go back in this relationship, to go tell friends who were with me and supporting me when she was doing her thing, like, hey, I'm bringing her back in. That's going to be a hard emotional moments to have with those people. But I knew logically where I wanted this end result to be and what I was willing to do to get there. And so it allowed me to navigate emotional moments better because I had the pre-logical thought.
Yeah. And I feel that is your strength. That is your core competency. I think you as a human have this that is different to most people, that you're able to frame things in a rational way, detach, and then be calm about it. So let's go back into perspective and adaptability. So I was going one direction. Let's go back in terms of perspective and adaptability. Perspective means context. What is the meaning of life, brother? Do you think the universe is random or non-random?
That's the crazy question. I think it's both. Well, first, I'm a man of faith. I believe that God created us, but at the same time, I think he gave us free will. So it's the first part of it. Meaning of life, I don't think we're supposed to know. What I do know my meaning of life is we're all living experiences every day. Literally, like if I go outside and I see the sun, it's an experience I had. If I go out, in the bed with my wife and I make love to her, it's an experience. If I get in a fight with somebody or somebody hits my car, it's an experience. So the way that I look at life is I choose to think the meaning of life is to have more good experiences than bad experiences. I think if that's the case, like part of the experience is a life as a whole also.
So they say, if you are climbing up a ladder to achieve something, to get somewhere, and then suddenly you realize when you get to the top of the ladder, you're on the wrong building.
Yeah.
So experiences are great, but if you don't have perspective, if you don't have context, if you are not, seeing the big picture of whether the universe is random or non-random, do you get what I'm saying? Then could it not be that you end up on the wrong, on the top of the wrong ladder?
You very well could, but I don't think that has to do with the meaning of life, I guess, in my perspective. I mean, yes, that definitely can happen, but along that, there's more good experiences than bad. I mean, you could end up in a place you don't want to be while still having good experiences, right? I could take a trip to Italy right now and have a great trip over there and realize like, oh, I hate this hotel room, right? But it's not going to ruin my entire trip. It's like, let me get another hotel room, go somewhere else. So even along these journeys, there's no right or wrong in life. I mean, there's some things that could be wrong, but it's all honestly your own perspective and where you're going. And half the time, nobody cares but you. So if you ask meaning of life, I think more good than bad. If you ask that question in terms of like, could we go in the wrong direction? Hell yes, we could. We could easily go climb that ladder and be leaned up against the wrong building. But it doesn't mean you die on top of the ladder. It means you climb down and you climb on the ladder and find joy in the process of climbing.
Is there life after death, brother?
Yeah.
How do you know?
I don't, but I do. It's a faith thing. I guess that kind of thing is do you have a definitive? I think if there was this aspect of the word belief or faith, it's literally to believe in the face of something many people don't believe, right? So one is I don't take this thought of my religion and throw it on other people. I just know that for me, while I'm on this earth, I live my life in a way that allows me to have this reckoning for bad actions. And so essentially, like if I do something wrong, it may damage my afterlife. So I do good things and honest things, and it helps the world around me.
Let me
Do I
ask
believe
you,
that? Yeah.
is there objective truth?
I don't know. Because at the end of the day, if you think about objective truth, is going to be like, is there? Yeah, no. Because everybody's perspective is different. I would have to ask that question of who's going to be the one that's objectively answering or thinking. If it's a murderer or a criminal, like their objective truth is different than a saint.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of circumstances. Everybody is born into different circumstances.
Very much
So,
so.
for example, you know, someone might be born in India and they are born into a Hindu faith.
Yeah.
Someone's born in Mecca and they're a Muslim faith. Someone's born in the US and they may be, you know, of a Christian or an atheistic faith, right?
Yeah.
So your circumstances dictate your reality. And then I'm trying to understand if there is objective truth, because if there is objective truth, then there's a singular answer to whether there is life after death or not. Do you get what I'm saying?
I don't know if it'd be a singular thing. It's kind of like there's always I think that where we get down. I had a call come in. Sorry. I think here's the thing. I do think there is a higher power. I think there is a way to live good and to live right. And if you look at like the whole of humanity, it is wrong to kill people, right? It's wrong to rape and pillage and steal and rob. It's wrong to, you know, take somebody's wife. So like there could be objective truths, and I think those still lay in line with like, are you creating good experiences for the people that you interact? Because there's people that may not have my same belief, like you said, it might be Hindu and Buddhist, and I'm Christian, right? But I think at the end of the day, like there's a base around like treat people well and do good things. Like that's the root of most religions, right?
Right, but those truths are independent of the religions.
Yes, but some are within the religion too. Some are 10 commandments that are written in, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, there's things that I think
life after
will down
death
to them.
isn't one of those truths, right?
Not all of them. Some of them it's, you know, it's purgatory. Some of them it's different. But I think that depends on your personal beliefs. And if you think about it, the personal belief for the afterlife really drives what you do in the current life. I think if like I believe I'm gonna, you know, for example, if I may be a certain branch of you know, Muslim that believes that if I go and kill these people and blow them up, I get 19 virgins in heaven. Like that's a different kind of belief, but they still operate a certain way currently, presently on earth. And I think that there's a difference between like what's good and what's wrong. I think some things are wrong, but again, it's not my belief. So
Yeah,
I personally believe there's life after death. Do I know? Nobody knows.
Just to correct you on that, as a Muslim, there is nothing in Islam that actually says that.
Oh, that's why I said a branch. I totally
even
know
a branch. There is never a branch that believes that. There's no truth to it at all.
I don't doubt it because I don't know the religion, but whenever we know the people who are non-Muslim, and I'm not in any way, I got friends who are Muslim. I get what you're saying, but some of these people use the same Quran to validate their crazy actions. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's right. It's just a perspective.
But so did the slave masters when they were using Christianity to
totally agree. 100% agree.
So you've got to balance it out, because I'm you know, whenever there's a negative statement against Islam, I feel it's my responsibility to correct it, because it's all relative.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that it actually is the in any way, shape, or form think it's a Muslim thought to think that at all. I know it's not. You know what I mean? Like I know it isn't. But if you think about, say, with the Bible, there's people who are in the KKK who will go by the same Bible and say God's a white man. This, you know, like yeah, it's all interpretation. But even then, it was like it's a weird branch of people using that same book. That's all I'm saying.
Right. And the basis of the conversation was perspective and adaptability. And so I was just trying to get your context, which is perspective, and I was saying perhaps perspective or your context is circumstantial, like anybody in a different part of the world has a different belief based on where they were born, as it opposed to being an objective truth. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Because at the end of the day, it's based on where you're living can give you, I mean, whether you shake with your right hand or your left hand, or whether, you know, a certain finger is bad. Like, totally grasp what you're saying there.
So we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. I've got two or three questions. One of them is around your learnings. You are a coach of coaches. What has been your learning of the best coaches that you've coached? What is the key competency that you've pulled out of them or that they've possessed?
Yeah, I think each coach that I've found a lot. I've worked with a lot of coaches. Some are great, some aren't. I think the biggest core competency is it's communication. Communication isn't always making somebody hear what you're saying, but also listen what they're saying. So it's understanding how to listen with different ears. So if the coaches I work with, if they're able to listen, whether it's to me or to the marketplace, or look at the world that they have around them and listen to people close to them, they'll find their core competencies. They'll find what I call organically ooze. Because when you're a coach, like it's if like I was to get on here and coach you on how to, I don't know, how to be a Indian woman in America, like that doesn't look like the guy to do that, right? That wouldn't make much sense. But if I coach you on something that's in line, like for me, an identity, or to be a black man in America, like there's that dial in, but I've got to listen to what my strengths are and find a way to kind of put those together and teach towards that finish line. If you ask another one, like what I think coaches need to do is they need to make sure they've crossed a finish line in life, because those who are trying to teach while still running the path and running the journey, like that's not the best place for you to do it, because you're not going to know until you cross the finish line if you took wrong turns, or if you delayed in place you shouldn't delayed. And it's not till you get back and say, okay, I ran this race, let me listen to people telling me what I did in this race and say, ooh, all right, so I know that because I ran this race I wouldn't have done that or that or that. Now I can go coach and say, hey, if you want to get to this place I'm at, here's what to do and what not to do. And I know this because I went through it, cross the finish line, and now I can look back and be honestly open about what other things need to be done differently. That's a big piece of it too, is being able to swallow your pride and ego, admit your faults, own up to stuff, because unless you own up to it, like you can't teach somebody else to.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another conversation in terms of the finishing line and everything like that, but we've only got a couple of minutes left. So I've got two more questions. If you were to describe yourself as an animal, what kind of animal would you describe yourself as?
I'd be a manta ray.
A what?
A manta ray?
What's that?
In the ocean? What's a manta ray?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's what killed what's his name? The Benwin what's his Bendy Irwin, Steve Irwin. It's the animal that killed Steve Irwin, the little barb, and it stuck him in the heart. Remember that? The big manta rays?
I know them as rayfish.
Ah, rayfish then. Yeah, rayfish.
Yeah. So what are the characteristics you possess of a rayfish? Or a manta ray, sorry.
They're I guess that they're majestic, they're big, they're beautiful. They're these animals that they can just kind of hang out under the water and they just do their thing and live their life. They don't disturb anybody, but if provoked, like they'll kill you. So I guess that's kind of the way. I'm a happy guy, man. I lay low, I do my things, I hang out, but then I'm an individual. I'm still a grown man in a real world, and so if provoked, I do crazy things, but not really crazy. I stand up for what matters. I stand up for myself. So I like manta rays. They're kind of cool, man. They just kind of do their thing.
Yeah, and so there's a whole host of questions on that as well, but we'll stop there. They say you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around most with.
Yeah.
If you wanted to raise your average, and this was a fantasy scenario where you could choose people from past, present, or future, who would the 5 people you would want to most hang out with?
I would want to most hang out with, let's see. I would want to hang out with Jesus. I'd like to hang out with future Antony. I would hang out with Martin Luther King. I would hang out with Hitler. I'll tell you why in a minute. And then who else would I want to hang out with? I would want to hang out with my wife all day long. That'd be a good one. And my kids. My wife family. We'll call it my family. I don't know. But the thing is like, Jesus, because I want to grasp, like, the things that I may not grasp, and be there and listen. My future self, because I'll get that guy's brain. I don't know anybody else's brain fully, but I'll know that guy because he's in my head all day. MLK, because I want to see the way that the world operated through his eyes, because he has a different perspective that I thought was cool. Hitler, because I want to be able to understand the hate and how it drives in some direction, like the thought that it's okay and should kill other humans. Like, not that I want to like learn and embody, but I want to be in the brain, because that I think balanced out with other things and makes it a little more operational. But the person that it's so intriguing to see how the brain must have operated, to be in conversation, to hear that, because that's a palpable driven hate to get other humans to kill other humans, man, nuts. And then my wife and kids, because that's my favorite people in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, brother, is there any last messages? We've run out of time.
Nah, man, that was it. That's all. I don't have any. I mean, you extracted it all. We had a cool conversation, which is good.
Yeah. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
No
and
problem.
hopefully you'll give me another chance to have a longer conversation.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I might do my schedule. If you look at this thing, it is ridiculous tight. Look at how like just like it's rocking full with just stuff to do
Well,
all
if you
day
enjoyed
long.
this conversation, we can do it for an hour.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, we'll figure it out. It may be next month, but we'll figure it out. We can get something
All
done.
right, brother. All right. Thank you so
All right.
much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank
Take
you.
care.